I'm sitting down with Ashley Wiesen, and we met at Natalie's Rural Rooted, which, if you've been listening to the episodes thus far through season 2, is going to be a common thread between a lot of these interviews. But I'm so excited to sit down with her because she has a lot of things going on and she's about to take off on a lot of things. And I know I usually give like a little blurb about whoever I'm talking about, but the best way I think to describe Ashley is her Instagram bio, so I'm just going to read it to you guys. So, owning my freedom to be authentically me, passionate about business, motherhood, and rural life, cheap wine connoisseur. And I think that is the best thing I've read in a long time. So, Ashley, with that being your introduction, could you tell us a little bit about yourself to get things started?
Yeah, so my name's Ashley Wiesen, and I live in Southwest Minnesota with my husband, and my son turns 1 here in a few weeks, which is crazy.
That's exciting.
Um, so both my husband and I work in agriculture. My day job is as a grain buyer for a corn processing plant, and we raise registered limousine cattle with my in-laws. So that's just me in a nutshell. I'm just trying to navigate motherhood, figuring out what the heck I'm doing raising a little one, and business ownership. I didn't even say, but my sister and I own a boutique, and I'm just in the process of starting a social media consulting business. So trying to navigate all that, and that's why I need a lot of cheap wine to get me through.
I hear you. Oh man, and the ebbs and flow of life, right? Who doesn't need some good cheap wine every once in a
Oh yeah, it's like a nightly occurrence
while?
sometimes.
So I want to start with what your day job is, and I know I always hate saying that because our side hustles usually take up more time than our day jobs. But anyways,
Yeah.
talk us through a little bit about what you do as a corn buyer and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, so pretty much I just work directly with we have 5 elevators in our region, and so I work directly primarily buying into our corn processing plant. So we produce ethanol, we produce alcohol, we produce sweeteners. And so I work farm direct. I'm directly working with I have a list of about 85 customers, and primarily I'm just working on buying their grain. In a nutshell. It's a lot deeper than that. I spend a lot of time on farm, sitting at their kitchen tables, going through their financial situation, walking through where the markets are at, what break even prices they need. So it's a lot of back and forth to make sure that they're not only are they getting um, financial value, but they're getting good customer service of a partner on their farm operation instead of just someone that's trying to meet their quota.
Right. Yeah, I was gonna say I'm sure it's a lot more than just numbers, right? There's a lot of people involved in it, and
Oh yeah.
you've
And a lot
probably
of customers, it's more than one person
right.
running the operation. It's a father son, it's an uncle, father, nephew. Like there's a lot of dynamics that go into it. And so kind of learning how to handle the different family dynamics that go into it too can be interesting at times.
Yes, I'm sure. Well, families in agriculture, that's obviously something that's huge.
Oh yeah.
The factory farming type word that's being thrown around, I always kind of have to laugh because I don't know where that came from because it
Yeah.
couldn't be further from that. It's families who are
Yeah,
working
exactly.
together on these farms. So
Yep.
dealing with that, I'm sure, is something that keeps your days new all the time.
Oh yeah, it's interesting. It's always funny to deal with like father son duos because they just crack me up. Like the sons want to be in charge. But a lot of time and the fathers like say the sons are in charge, but they're always not. And
Yeah.
so it's always fun. But that's one like really satisfying part of the work is like when you start, like when I started, I have some customers who like the son wasn't even in the picture, like he was still in college or whatever. And now I'm working through like helping them in the transition of father to son. And so that's just so cool to see like the generations being passed down and how like important that legacy is, and just getting to be a part of like those conversations is just so rewarding.
Right. Well, and I'm sure too, like seeing agriculture continue on through it too.
Yeah. Yeah. And seeing like the younger age group now, like they have their families, and seeing how long term you think in agriculture, like I don't know if people understand outside of agriculture that like when we're making decisions, it's not for us. You know what I mean? Like my
Exactly.
husband and I are in the process of buying my in-laws farm, and all the decisions we're making, we're like, okay, so when our son takes over the farm, like when he has that opportunity, and that's like, okay, that's 25 years down the road that we're thinking, but we're making those decisions today
Right.
for him then. And so being able to see that too, just like in day-to-day work and seeing those families make those decisions like, okay, well, hopefully one day my son wants to be here and I need to make decisions today so that it's still here for him.
Yeah, and that's a big part of it. I like you said that people don't really realize is this is it's family traditions and family livelihoods, generations and
Yeah.
generations where it's not just one day. Well, in some situations it may be someone wakes up one day and decides to be a farmer, but in most cases it's not. It's
Yeah.
passed down the line.
Yeah. And it's just leaving that legacy for your kids. Like what, you know, no one wants to be the generation that ruins it, but I don't think anyone has that intention ever.
Right.
It's just based on the decisions you're making today. Like you want this to withstand 6, 7 generations, and how do you need to formulate those decisions now so that 7 generations last?
Right. Well, and that's
That's a lot of weight on your
I was
shoulders,
going to say
but
that's stressful.
yeah, it is. But I think that's just when you've grown up in agriculture, I just think it's like in your nature. I don't think you I don't think you even second guess like how normal it is to think that long term.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Even so growing up, my parents are farmers and ranchers and they have a herd of cattle. And so when I left California, that was a huge deal. Like, who's going to take over the cows type situation. And that was
Yeah.
kind of because my brother wants absolutely nothing to do with the cows. But
Yeah.
even just starting over in Texas, and I mean, we have 3 heifers, so it's not like we have a huge herd, but trying to figure out, like, okay, will those cows come to Texas now? Like, just the dynamics of it, and then again
Mhm.
long term, like what will this mean for our family and our family name and all that. It's a
Exactly.
lot.
Yeah, it is. It is so stressful, but it's so rewarding too. Like thinking about what that future could look like for your family and your kids is just like so cool.
Well, and the potential of it too, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, switching gears because I know there's well, actually, along the lines of families. So you guys are raising cattle, and what is your I don't want to say purpose because there's obviously a purpose, but what do you guys do with the cattle that you raise?
So we're actually in the process of starting to sell farm direct beef.
Okay.
But we pretty much just like have them out and then we keep our replacements back and sell the rest.
Okay. Okay.
So we don't feed out all the way. We just I wish we had space to do it, but we just don't have enough space to
Right.
feed them out.
Well, and cost efficiency wise and all that stuff too, right?
Yeah. Exactly, yeah. And my husband and I both work full time and we aren't on the farm. My in-laws are, and my in-laws, they're getting older. I mean, they can't, it would be a lot more work to have them there to feed out. So it works well for us,
Hmm.
but I mean, we could always use more space.
Right. Everyone could always use a few more
Yeah.
acres, right? And so with this whole direct sales plan, what is kind of your goal through that and what does that look like?
Good question. I don't know. We're gonna just try and figure it out. We have been like getting steers butchered and stuff for years and just like family and
Right.
friends. And so I think we're going to just try it out this year and see what happens. We don't really have a USDA inspected locker like very close to us. And so we actually this year were able to snag some spots. And so we were like, hey, this is the year we're doing it. Like, let's give it a whirl and try. Um, and we'll see. I don't know. Our town has like a just a cute little farmers market in the summer, and so I think we're gonna kind of try that out. All of our locker spaces are spaced like a month apart, so it's not like we'll ever have a large quantity at once to move. And so I think that might be the best route for us in the beginning. But um, our first steer goes in like 2 weeks, so now we're like, okay, what are we doing? How are we gonna do this?
That's exciting though, kind of another new business venture, right?
Yeah. And it's something I think a lot of my business ventures are like me and my husband's just kind of like, oh, by the way, I'm doing this. So now you're kind of like roped into it. Bless his soul. But this one, he's like super, I mean, he's grown up that way. And I mean, we eat beef. I don't even know the last, I mean, we eat pork occasionally, but I don't even know the last time I had chicken or anything. So like, that's just normal to us. And he's so passionate about the cattle he raises and how good they are and feeding beef and how important that is for a healthy diet that I think he's really excited about this. Probably more than I am.
So another thing is Ashley's husband loves spreadsheets. If you don't follow her on social media, first of all, you need to, but I'm sure there's a spreadsheet for the beef business, right?
There's a spreadsheet for everything, like literally everything. And it's so cute because he'll be like even last night, I was like, what are you working on? Like we're sitting on the couch watching TV. I'm like, what are you doing? He's on his computer. He's like, I'm just running through some scenarios on my spreadsheet. Like what in the world? Like who does that for fun? But
Right?
he loves it. Yeah.
But that's awesome that you guys can do it together. And again, going back to all the family ties and leaving a legacy for your family and your kids, and really have that family time together, especially because you do have full-time jobs away from the farm.
Yeah. And I think it will be nice to have something that's like just ours too. I love my in-laws, but the farm is like us together, and so I think this will be really fun to have something that's just like our family.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can do with it what you want and
Yeah.
not have other opinions and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yep.
Good. Well, in addition to that, your boutique. I want to talk about that too because when I met you, I didn't even realize the super cute shirts you were wearing every day were your shirts. So let's talk about that and how that started.
It started with some cheap wine. I had been debating it and kind of like looking into it and making my own shirts and stuff, like just kind of casually scrolling Google and YouTube and here and there. And then I like really wanted to do it, but I was really worried about, I mean, I think everyone knows someone who owns a boutique, right? Or a lot of people do. And so I was just really worried that people were going to be like, really another person
Another
in
one,
a
right?
boutique. And so I was just, I don't, I'm an Enneagram 3. I absolutely care so deeply about what people think and I don't want to fail. And so that's something I really have to work on. And so I was scrolling Google one night and like kind of watching YouTube videos and stuff. And I'd had enough wine to encourage my decision. And I just started ordering things. Like I just like, okay, I'm going to order the heat press. I'm going to order blank shirts. And I just like ordered everything I needed to start one night. And then it kind of the next morning I was like, oh,
I'm
okay,
doing
I'm
this.
doing this. Yeah. And thankfully my sister, her and I like are so opposite. And I love that about us. And so she is very much like, I'm very much go with the flow, like we'll figure it out. I'm a dreamer and she's the logical, analytical, like detailed one. And so she came in. So we own it 50-50 and I could not do it without her because she very much keeps me on track. And so that's just kind of how it started. Like I just had been thinking that, and it goes back to my Instagram bio about freedom is now that I'm a mom, I'm realizing how much time I spend away from my kid. And some days that's good and some days it's bad. Um, and I wanted a creative outlet because when you become a mom, it's so much like you're doing stuff for other people. And so it was a little selfish in that like I want something that's mine that I enjoy that's creative for me. But also in the back of my head, I was like, hey, if we can grow this to something, that's that much more freedom that I have. Um, and so yeah, it was all sponsored by some cheap wine. And then I did it and I was like, oh my gosh, okay, now I'm doing it. And so yeah, my sister and I, we do carry like regular boutique items that we're just kind of dabbling into, but a lot of what we do is graphic t-shirts. And we make them ourselves. So it's like a blank shirt and your print, and then you press them together under like a professional heat press. So yeah, all the shirts I wore at Rural Rooted were made by me like the day before we left so that I had stuff to wear.
Stuff to wear. I love that. And so you guys, do you have a storefront or strictly online?
Strictly online.
Strictly online.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. We do it all out of my basement. So it's interesting, but I don't think we ever have the desire to do a storefront. My sister works full time too. And I just think that that's a little too much commitment for us.
Yeah. Storefronts can be a lot. I mean, I
Yeah.
personally do not have one, but I for our other business, we don't want one, just with all the added stress of overhead and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yep.
Employees and all that.
Yeah, exactly.
I get it. And then now your new adventure that you just recently told the world about. Tell us
Yes.
about that.
Um, so when I started this boutique business, I kind of became obsessed with social media and just like learning how it ticks and how it works. And then obviously like attending Rural Rooted is a lot about like taking a deep dive into social media. And one thing that there's tons of social media coaches out there. Like you can Google and find one instantly. But one thing that was always frustrating to me is I wanted a social media coach that understood like the rural lifestyle
Mhm.
and how that plays into our business. You can find coaches and they live in bigger cities, which is great, but like I live in a town of 1800. So how can I grow my business when I don't actually have like any audience here physically to start with? You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yep.
And I just felt like that was something that was missing. And so that's kind of where it came from, was just that need that I like wished I had a social media coach who like got that a little bit more. And yeah, I'm so obsessed with like looking at engagements and insights and hashtags and everything. And so I just like, you know what, let's try this and see. And people wanted it, I guess. So here we are
Yeah. So you
with
launched
another thing
it,
on my plate. So
right? So you've launched it, and now at this point you're taking clients. And how does the coaching work? Is it like they sign up for a session, or what's the deal?
yeah, so I actually like I literally just launched this a few days ago. So and like I said, I'm pretty go with the flow, so I don't really have a structured plan. But I just took on free clients this week. So I took on a few clients for free, simply wanting like their feedback. Like was this actually beneficial, or are you like, no, this was a waste of my time? And so far I've gotten really great feedback, which has helped me feel a lot better that this is a need, that it's not just me who saw it, other people saw that need too. And I actually have already booked a workshop in September. So I'm really excited about that. So it just all kind of happened. I think from here I'm going to go into a little bit more of like one-on-one. I personally think I thrive better in like a one-on-one or a very small group setting. I think that's where I could really show my skills and benefit those people versus a larger setting. So I think from here, one of the clients that I took on this last week just for free, she was like, okay, tell me how much I owe you. Like, when can I book the next one? So I was like, okay, I'll get on this. So I think that's just kind of where I'm going to start, is taking on a few clients, meeting with them maybe 2 times a month, monthly, and just kind of making sure they're staying on track with their social media strategy and then building from there.
Yeah. I think that's a great game plan, especially starting out. And obviously, like, Rural Rooted was amazing. And the fact that we got all that information, all of the like spiritual journey thing that kind of happened while we were there. But
Yeah.
then now, even personally, I'm feeling like, okay, great. But like, now what? Like, how do I manage all of this?
And
And
I think that's a big part that plays into it, is like the accountability.
mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Because I'm the same way. Like there, it's like, gosh, I had all these ideas and things flowing. And now I come home and I'm like, okay, so where do I go from here?
Right.
And
Right.
I think sometimes it's so beneficial to just have that person to bounce your ideas off and then validate that, like, yeah, you're doing it right, or let's tweak it a little bit here. And um like so far everyone I've had a call with, they have strong Instagram games, but they're just at that point of like, I'm stuck, I'm
Hmm.
stalled, like what do I need to do to take my next step forward? And so um I think that it's going to be very beneficial, and especially for that accountability part, like, okay, we talked about this, now I see you implementing it, let's keep going.
Yeah, for sure. And especially with the rural agricultural type focus, if that's really kind of where you're going to hope to lie, especially because a lot of those people, like you said, are in small towns where they don't have a lot of accountability from a large audience or anything like that.
It's it's um it's like a it's like a trend, you know, like when fashion trends happen and it takes way longer to hit rural communities. It's
Hmm.
I feel like it's the same thing, where there's a lot of people in rural communities that still don't understand. Like I was trying to explain to some people about like rural rooted and what I was like, why I went and stuff. And they're like, so like you make money on social media? Like
Yeah.
how exactly, like even my parents were like, I don't get how that works. Like you,
Yes.
like people pay you to be on social media. And I'm like, yeah, it's a crazy world out there, you know? But in rural communities, I don't think there's a lot of people who understand that. There definitely is, but I don't think they have someone like in their corner necessarily fighting for them and being like, no, this will work just because you live in a town of 1800 or 200 like the town I grew up in. Like social media opens the entire world for possibilities for you and helping them see that, but also being that cheerleader in their corner when a lot of people in rural areas just don't quite grasp that concept yet.
Right. Well, and exactly like you just said, it expands that reach through social media. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
you can literally have followers in different parts of the world, and
Yeah.
then they're getting your message or they're buying your product or whatever it may be. So it
Yeah.
opens up a whole new door.
Yeah, it's crazy because like even our boutique when we launched, um our first 4 orders weren't even from the states we lived in. So at the time I was living in Minnesota, my sister was living in South Dakota, and I think our first 4 orders were New Mexico, Kansas, Illinois, and Oregon.
Yeah.
So it was like,
Where
how
did
in
these
the
come from?
heck? And they were
Yep.
people that were following us on social media that we didn't really like. We kind of like, oh, okay, that name is familiar, but we
Right.
didn't know them, you know? And so it's like it totally expands your horizons.
Right. Absolutely. And again, going back to then feeling like you can contribute to your family and um, do things that don't necessarily have to be a farm wife or whatever the heck that role looks like for somebody on
Right.
their operation, but kind of gives them another
Yeah.
outlet.
And I think a lot of it stemmed from that too. Because like I said, when I became a mom, I just felt like I want to be home with him more, which I'm not right now, and I wish I could be. But I also knew that like if I ever got to that point to be home with him full time, I would need something for me to provide an income, to have that creative outlet, like something like that. And I think there's probably a lot of moms in rural areas that feel that way. Like, I so desperately want to be home with my kids and be on the farm more and around my husband more, but I want to financially contribute and I want an outlet, but how do I do that?
Yeah.
And I feel like social media is your answer. No matter what type of business you have, I think it can grow and be successful by utilizing social media.
Yes, 100%. I think exactly what you just said. I think there's a lot more people and especially women out there who are going through that internal feeling of how can I do this? And
Yes.
that's the answer.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep.
For sure.
Well, what else? Did we hit all the businesses? I think we did. We've got the
I think we
team.
did.
And I
Yes.
guess too, I just want your advice as somebody who is a woman in agriculture in a high kind of profile position as far as your day job with interacting with a lot of men, I'm sure. What are some challenges with that? And then how do you kind of use that to fuel the rest of everything that you've got going on?
Yeah, it I did this job right out of college and I really struggled the first year because I was a 22-year-old female working primarily with men over the age of 45.
Hmm.
And I there was a lot of comments that got to me in the beginning. I had a lot of people that were like, I've been farming longer than you've been alive. Like, you can't tell me anything. And I do think that I probably approached some of those conversations the wrong way that led them to have that response to me. Um, but now I've learned a little bit to let the comments like roll off my shoulders because I know that they don't mean them. More often than not, you catch someone on a bad day and the
Right.
tractor's broke down and rain's coming and they need to get planting and you happen to be the one that it got taken out on. Um, but I also think that my parents just really raised me to have a very outspoken personality and very independent, and conflict really doesn't bother me. Stand up for yourself. And so I have had to have those conversations with customers before when comments have been made of like, you're a female in a man's world. Like, well, I have a college degree in this. I've worked in this for 5 years. I have a lot of experience. I've been very successful in it. And I'm just here to help you. Like,
Yeah.
that's my job, is to help them. And if they don't want that help, there's nothing you can do. Um, but it's hard sometimes. And I think one thing that bothered me that I really had to work on was I would have my boss come out with me on farm with customers, and I could meet with that customer 4 or 5 times and like we have great conversations. And as soon as my boss, who's a man, walked in, it was those two conversing
Yeah.
and I was kind of cut out. And just any advice I have for a female and egg is to stand up for yourself and make sure you're heard. Because for a while, I just sat back and like let them have that conversation. And I'm like, no, I can answer every single question that you're asking my boss, and you're going to ask it to me.
Hmm.
And it just was standing up for myself and interjecting in that conversation and just starting to answer those questions and letting them know that I'm just as capable as anyone else, whether male, female, or how much experience they have. Like, I'm just as knowledgeable and I can help you with that.
Yep. Yep. I think that's incredible advice and something that resonates with me as well. And I just, yeah, I mean, you can do just as much as you want to do or you don't want to do, really. But
Yeah,
at the end of the day, you just gotta buckle down and get into it, right?
exactly. Yes.
Well, Ashley, I want to thank you for your time. And at this point, we're gonna roll into our rapid fire questions if you are prepared and ready for those.
Okay.
Okay. The first question is, what was your first celebrity crush?
Oh my goodness. Oh, I don't even want to say this. Peyton Manning. I don't know why, but I was in love with him when I was younger. I don't know why.
Maybe the football thing,
Yeah, I think
NFL,
so
all
because
that.
then I rolled into JJ Watt like as I got older.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so I'm like, I don't know, maybe it's just the athletic type. I'm
Yeah,
not
it's the
really
football
sure.
player thing. That's what it
Yeah.
is. The second one is, if you could travel back into time, what time period would you go to? That's a hard one.
Well, I would go back to college in a
College?
heartbeat.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's yeah.
I would love to redo my college years.
Would you like, from what standpoint, as far as like major or just like how you did things?
Oh, just the social aspect. Yeah. No, I don't actually want to like go to class
No,
again or
yeah.
anything.
That's
I,
what my
but I just miss the social aspect because it's something you so take for granted that
oh,
like
totally.
you and your best friends all live in the exact same place or like live together, and now like we all live however far apart and don't get like working jobs that are crazy, and you
Mhm.
just don't get to see them near as much. And I like as I grow up, I'm like, man, I really took those years for granted.
Totally. I know. I always tell my dad that college was great except for the school part.
Yes. Yes. And like college was totally great. The social aspect was wonderful and school was okay.
Yeah, it was there.
Yeah.
And then the last question is, what is your favorite ice cream flavor?
Oh, cookies and cream for sure.
That's a good one. That's a good one. I think
It
I'm
was
a chocolate.
actually invented at SDSU where I went to college.
Oh,
So,
really? Well,
yes.
there you go.
Fun fact. Yep.
There you go. Fun fact. Well, Ashley, thank you so much for taking time to spend with me today and chat about all of the things you have going on. What are some ways people can connect to you if they are wanting to find out more or just get in touch?
The best way to connect with me is on Instagram. My handle is at Ashley Wiesen. And so it's Wiesen.
Perfect. And I'll tag that in the description box. And again, thanks for chatting with me. And hopefully, those who are listening got some inspiration from this. And I can't wait to see everything that you're doing continue to grow and take off.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much for having me. It was fun to catch up and chat with you.